and now reading shitty books with Noble. My first book review on the channel was going to be, reviewing Live by Night, a book I enjoyed reading because I love Dennis Lehane's writing and his pure detail of every single thing, every single scenario that the characters are in. He just details them to the point, even to the point where he detailed one of the characters' scratches on his gun. I absolutely love that book. We are not reviewing that book, but instead we are reviewing the trash fire that is known as Stones to Abbigale. A book written? I guess you could call it a written book. I mean, it's a bunch of words. I guess you could say that. By Gregory Jackson, Onision, James Jackson, the legend himself. Listen, I'm doing this not because I'm a masochist, probably, but, because I couldn't pass up the opportunity to, make fun of Onision's writing skills and make money while doing it, so, yeah. Today's video is going to be long, so sit back, relax, grab a few snacks, maybe grab a bottle of wine, I don't fucking know, and chug that shit. If I look like a librarian that's going through a midlife crisis and a divorce at the age of 25, that's because I wanted to dress fancy and I didn't really have a suit to dress, so I have a tie, I guess. But let's get on with the review of the book. The first chapter starts off very vague, very poetic. What I mean by poetic is that Gregg just strung a bunch of words together and hoped that they would stick and make him sound smart, but in reality, that's the exact opposite of what they did. An example of this is the literal first sentence in the entire book. Like, not even the introduction. Like, there's no... Introduction? Really? Did you expect to be a fucking book? Did you expect this to be an actual good book with an introduction and a prologue? Fuck you, if you think that was the thing. No, literally the book has cover, chapter 1. Oh, we're in for a good run. Of course, this book is self-published, so I didn't expect much, but holy fuck, man. Holy fuck, are we in it for a shitstorm. I was asleep until I met her. When I finally awoke, I learned the meaning of perfect imperfection. Very 14-year-old edgelord that still thinks MySpace is cool or relevant writing right there, Gregg. Just good. Oh god, I'm so old if I remember MySpace. Let's continue. Also, the main character's name is James. Obviously a self-insert of Onision, because he also goes by the name of James now. I found out the name of the main character not through the main character, but I found out through another character entirely. Now, this may be a minor nitpick to me, but except the way the main character is introduced is very out of the blue. Mr. Hanson, my heavyset middle-aged history teacher, rolled his eyes as I walked into class. "James, talk to me after class," he said quickly, looking away from me if I were an undervalued employee who was barely of any importance enough to make eye contact with, let alone deliver a full sentence to. Also, I'd like to point out that the history teacher's name is Mr. Hanson. Ooh, how ironic, huh? But let's continue. There was only 15 minutes left in class, but I felt that it would be more stimulating to integrate myself into a room yet again, study my classmates' behaviors, rather than sit in the hall and watch the rows of scum-covered tiles inevitably slide off the decaying walls. That's something a serial killer would say, and not a normal teen. You might want to get your head checked, kid. Who the fuck does that? Now that I mention it, this kid is probably a psychopath because of how he describes his room. It's just borderline psychotic. For as long as I remember, I've enjoyed seeing how people move around and talk to each other, like they're all animals at the zoo. I would try to deliver a more accurate analogy if I felt there was one, but so many of them seemed incredibly unaware of themselves, just living life as if it were some generic predefined routine. Sometimes I felt like an alien too who had a VIP pass to submerge myself in primitive human culture just for entertainment. Already off to a great start with the superiority complex there, Gregg. I walked quickly down the hall towards my art class, which was awkwardly placed in a trailer outside my clearly poorly funded high school. On my way to class, a fight had already broken out between two jocks who, no doubt, both had controlling, iron-fisted fathers who brainwashed them into believing conflicts between men are best resolved with the bloodying of their fists. These kinds of men plagued my mind with wonder. I could not conceive a scenario in which they could justify their primitive and pointless mentalities, yet they would always continue to perpetuate, why would you use perpetuate in that? To perpetuate their self-destructive attitudes as if it were offered to the slightest legitimate benefit. Fuck me. My computer just turned off. For fuck's sakes. So not only did you poor shame your high school, but you also made fun of a fight. Quality writing right there. Now, James, the alpha chat that he is, saw these two beta males fighting over fucking primitive shit, you know? Absolutely disgusting. Because, again, that's something a normal teen would do. Or a normal teen would be thinking of in this situation. Damn it. Forgot to put my phone on silent. I would describe this entire book as something that came out of r/I'm very smart. Well, then again, you could say that about Onision as a whole, as just a person, I guess. As I approached my next class, the image of Abby's face illuminated the neon walls of my mind like a projector teasing a theater screen with fleeting moments of depth and purpose. Ever since I met her, she had occupied a part of my consciousness. Whenever I wasn't near her, I missed her to an unrealistic extent. You could call my longing sad, especially considering we had barely talked. She just had a strange effect on me, one no doubt similar to a willful addiction. There are people in life which we pass by on a daily basis, barely aware of their existence, but on an exceptional rare occasion, you can find a person who fills an area inside your little world you didn't even realize needed filling. Gregg, who the fuck is Abby? Straight up, we're introduced to a character and we know next to nothing about them. We literally know next to nothing about the character your main character is simping after. What the fuck? Quality writing right here, I'm telling you guys. As I walked up the creaking stairs into my art class trailer, I could see Abby was sitting at her shared desk alone, same makeup, hairstyle, and general appearance I had thought. About repeatedly over the last couple days, she was drawing pictures on her blue-lined paper, distracting herself from the cold that filled the oddly glowing room. I smiled slightly, trying not to be too obvious, and sat down on my chilled metal chair positioned a few seats to the left in front of her. Glancing over, I could see she hadn't moved at all. I felt like she didn't even notice me come in. Simpler! Whoa, what the fuck's next, Gregg? Your main character is gonna subscribe to her OnlyFans and moderate her Twitch stream? Fucking hell, man. I wanted to inspire some acknowledgement of the existence from Abby, so I opened my mouth to greet her when my fingers brushed up against freshly smeared gum under my desk. Ew! I shouted out in an impulse. She looked up at me with a blank expression. Comedy! Who wrote comedy? I can't believe Gregg has a sense of humor. He wrote comedy. Reading this book a second time is like a new game plus of trying to see how bad this book can be. It's a good thing that the main character himself knows that he's pathetic. It's a good thing because in a way it's kind of self-aware, but in the other way, like, he knows he's still pathetic, but he still does most of the shit that makes him pathetic. So I don't know what to say about that. Now, I wanna subject you guys to when Abby didn't notice Gregg's character. The reason why is because she doesn't want to be associated with your weird ass. I mean, if I was her in that situation, I would do the exact same thing, Gregg. Also, this main character is just Gregg. It's just Onision. I mean, of course, but this is just him. The way he wants people who are minding their own business to notice that he exists. The way he wrote the female character, it's all just him. Everything that's happened in his life. Today I'm going to place you with partners, Mrs. Stanley said as she pulled out sheets of paper outlining our activities to come. To keep this simple, I'm going to partner you with the person you are currently assigned to share a desk with, she said. I sighed, knowing I was bound to be paired up with Alex, a guy I had specifically asked to be seated away from ever since he peed in a jar literally right next to me under the desk, acting like he was cool for publicly exposing himself while simultaneously urinating. What? Why would a 16-year-old use the words publicly exposing himself instead of just saying he peed into a jar? That also lines in with my main problem with the book. The main character is supposed to be written like a 16-year-old, but instead it's written like a main character who is in his 30s attending high school. I mean, that's unironic. I mean, depending on who you know who wrote the book. He probably wrote it like this because he couldn't be allowed 500 meters within a school grounds. Like, that's probably why Gregg wrote it like this. Alex, despite being borderline mental, was one of my least favorite people to study. I couldn't help but feel there was some defect in his mind that invalidated the point of conducting a thorough analysis of him. He was completely irrelevant when considering the realities of normal human behaviors. Wow, Gregg, you are just a cunt. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna just put that on record. I called Gregory a cunt. I mean, we don't know anything about Alex. We don't know if he has a mental illness or anything. We don't know. We know literally next to nothing about Alex except that your character hates him for some reason, just because he peed in a fucking jar. Like, if a character peed in a jar, okay. Don't hate them, what the fuck? Let's continue. As I was off on a tangent in my own mind, I heard a very familiar voice ring out. One that inspired the very same emotion you experience when a song you had forgotten you'd love randomly plays in the background of your daily life. Can I be paired up with James? Her voice was just as I remembered, despite her having not spoken in class in some times. She hadn't changed a note. Abby had interrupted the teacher just to partner with me. But I asked myself if it was really just to work with me or if it was just to get away from Jason. The teacher, looking irritated but understanding Abby's discomfort with Jason, responded, "Alex and Jason, you'll be partners. James, switch seats with Jason." "Thank you, Abby." "Thank you," Abby said with a slight smile. With a cocky grin, Jason stood up in a comedic fashion, smelled his armpits. "Wow, I didn't know I smelled that bad," Jason said as he walked over to sit by Alex. Now, I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm pretty sure this isn't how a teenager is supposed to act like. Jason raised his hands, objecting. "All due respect, Miss Stanley, I'm not breaking something of mine for this class," she replied, putting her hands on her hips. "That's fine, Jason. We'll supply with a toilet paper roll. We have plenty of extras around here." Man, that's very topical, right? That's very topical, huh? Miss Stanley must have stocked up when the outbreak was happening. So from all of this chapter, or from all of that thing that I just read, I'm not even gonna call it words. I got that this was a piss jar. That's literally all I got from it. I mean, it's almost borderline bizarre, but not like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Cool bizarre, but like more like dumb, stupid bizarre. On my way to the next class, I opened the note. I didn't understand why, but I read "nice one," not knowing what to make of it. Oh god, is this chick trying to spell Onision? Granted, there's an extra E in that word, so I wouldn't be surprised if Gregg didn't know how to spell his own fucking name. So for the next part, we're greeted to our main character witnessing Abby kissing her BF on the lips, only to have James say this. I felt like after a life of numbness, I was finally about to truly feel warmth for the first time, only to have it all taken away in an instant, leaving me hopeless in the shadows, alone once again. That is the most incel thing I've ever read. Like, it's just really pathetic to read. I looked down at my knees, feeling as if I'd lost all muscle control in my neck. Are you okay? Davis asks. I responded with hesitation. I'm just stupid. No, you're not. You're one of the coolest guys I know, Davis replied. Please kill me. Is this what Gregg thinks good writing is like? Is Davis the Speedwagon to James's Jonathan? Yes, I know. I'm sorry for using Speedwagon. I'm sorry for using our Lord's name in vain, alright? I'm sorry. I just needed a good analogy. I was too focused on the conflict raging in my mind to hear anyone at this point. I couldn't think of anything but Seth kissing Abby the entire trip home. Okay, if this kid doesn't end up being like a stalker or a psychopath by the end of this book, I am going to be very pissed. So after this, James gets home and then they have dinner. Mom, sister, and James. So the dad isn't there. We don't know why the dad's not there. Maybe the dad ran away. I don't fucking know. But we don't fucking know. The rest of the conversation between his mom and him is very depressing. And not just because, you know, it's depressing, but because it's depressing sad. It's like really sad to read. How was work, Mom? I asked, trying to keep my mind off haunting images looping in my mind. Again, the kid is just focusing on Abby kissing. Well, no one at work respects me or listens to me, and I generally can't stand it. But you know, we still have food on the table. She said with a stir. That sounds like a depressing place to work at. Oh my god. Again, due to Gregg's failed writing skills, we don't know where his mom works. Like, we don't know. So I don't know if it's a depressing place. I can't associate myself with this woman. So after this, we find out that Gregg's character figured out what was written on the note. The note said, nice one. Apparently, it's just something that, it's just a bunch of words, but if you revert them or convert them into numbers, you can get a phone number. Could you imagine if Gregg's character was an absolute dumbass and never figured that out? Like, the book would have just ended there, and it would have saved me so much fucking time. But alas, Gregg is a galaxy-brained individual. And, you know, he figures this out almost immediately upon seeing the note. Like, no hesitation, no build-up, nothing. Anyways, he calls the number and we're greeted to something this. What do you want? A disgruntled man's voice asked. Like a bad engine struggling to start in a monster movie, I clumsily belted out a response. I was looking for an enthusiastic female voice over the background said, give me the phone. Whatever, he said, dropping the phone in front of her. Hello? I could recognize that her voice was Abby. Alright, so I'm gonna not read this entire part, but you can read it. It's on the screen right now. But essentially, this boils down to Gregg's character and Abby's character deciding on what to bring to school so they can tarnish. Now, they both thought of the idea to bring a bear to school so they can make a zombie bear. Again, what? I don't know how from a bear, an actual cut, like a stuffed bear, you can see a zombie bear from it. I don't know how you can see that. I guess this is where the XD random comes into. I don't. Oh man. I laughed. Awesome, I said. By the way, this sentence is awful just because there's supposed to be a comma to separate it. But Gregg and grammar mix about as well as pancake and ketchup. And with that, we've made it to chapter 2 of the book. Chapter 1 is so far a dumpster fire of a slog to read. And I'm the only one to blame for putting myself through this torture.
The cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah, I am the cream. Yeah, let me.
Chapter 2 starts off with our main character being offered to a teacher's assistant opportunity by Mr. Hanson. Now, obviously, this is complete nonsense because A, the main character is always late, and as a TA, you should probably find someone who gets to class early, and B, this kid has the personality of a fruit cup. Also, everything this kid does or says is almost borderline psychopath. How much this kid is not written as a psychopath. I don't know if this is the vibe that Gregg is going for. I don't know, but so far this kid sounds like a psychopath to me. Later that day during lunch, due to my mom not being able to afford buying me a cell phone, I used a payphone to call Abby, but got no answer. I didn't feel like eating with the rest of so the rest of lunch I just sat on the bench outside staring at people interacting with each other. This kid is just straight up a psychopath. Like, what is normal about this? What does a normal teen? What? The next sentence I'll be reading is a clusterfuck of words, so get ready. It was raining outside. Clouds filled the sky in normal liquid fashion. I wasn't going to skate to school this time, out of fear that I would rust my skates and hinder my ability to skate fast, if even at all. This sentence had the word skate in it 3 goddamn fucking times. Holy fuck, I am dying. I am losing brain cells reading this goddamn book. Also, what fucking kid skates to school? What fucking kid skates to school and thinks it's cool? Like, if he was skateboarding, I'd understand. But skating? As I climbed up the bus steps, Davis rang out, "Hallelujah! James is here to save everyone from the evil clouds." I genuinely smiled for the first time that morning thanks to him. As usual, I sat next to the window seat that Davis courteously always offered me. I'm sorry, but is Davis like 9 or something? Like, why is a normal teen talking like that? Now, after this, our main character, James, gets into a fight with Jason, the bully that we know literally next to nothing about, except that he's a bully. I'm thinking that this fight was just there just because to boost Gregg's ego. I think that's the main reason why this fight was there, like straight up. As my nose began to bleed, one of the boys my sisters was friends with, Matthew, grabbed me and pulled me out of the fight. He was twice my size, but he was also on Jason's football team, so naturally, he did nothing to help me win. You did nothing to help yourself win! You straight up had to wait for someone else to help you win. Then, to actually put up a fight yourself. You did nothing. Today's not the day. Today's not the day. Fuck. Seth reacted to me like a guard dog in a ghetto-fenced yard once he realized I was headed towards him. A ghetto-fenced yard. Why couldn't it have been, just a normal fenced yard? Why is it gotta be a ghetto fenced one, huh, Gregg? Gregg? Why is it gotta be a ghetto fenced one? So after this, Seth and Abby break up because, again, Gregg's writing skills are about as functional as a wheelchair with 3 wheels. Seth is the bad guy, apparently. We don't know why he's the bad guy. Again, I'm not disappointed. After this, it starts to rain. The two walk into the rain, Abby and James. And we are treated to a passage that, honestly, is so fucking bad that I did not want to read it or write it for the script. So it's on screen right now. Read it yourself. Suffer like I did. While the two were walking home, Abby's makeup starts coming off, and it's revealed that she had bruises on her face from... Who exactly? I fucking know. Gregg couldn't have just put it in. Yeah, he wasn't fucked to write it in. But because of this, we got quite possibly one of the worst passages I have ever read in a book, and I've read a lot of books. "Do you see them?" she asked with a quiver in her voice. Without restraint, I responded with the first thing that came to my mind. I see beautiful girl. Fuck. I see beautiful girl who I very much enjoy walking with in the rain, despite her face being covered in fallen drops of water. I could clearly see tears fall from her eyes. Her head fell forward and she began to shake. Her tears were falling almost in sync with the rain. I walked up to her and put my arms around her side and walked with her the rest of the way home. Okay, so first off, sip. Secondly, I see beautiful girl? Really, Gregg? You couldn't have been fucked to grammar check this shit. Not today. Not today! After this, the chapter ends. This chapter had 0 filling in it, and it was almost as useless as Gregg's YouTube career right now. It was... Okay, it's not almost useless. It's completely useless. This chapter starts off with James having a vor dream about Abby getting eaten up into the ground. I don't know what's up with that, but okay. But the next passage I'm gonna read is the most emo's thing I have ever read in my life. But not like good emo bad, like bad emo bad. I then woke up to my room filled with sunlight, but it could not have changed the darkness my dream left me with. I felt something inside me change, almost as if I'd seen something I was never meant to, and now had to find a way to lose the thick cloud freshly looming over my head. I can feel Gregg, Onision, James, whatever the fuck, sucking his own dick over how proud he must have felt writing that. That was the worst thing I have ever fucking read. I feel this book is just an insult to my eyes at this point. After this, James writes a letter to Abby, and it's almost ironic how similar of a feel I got when I was reading these to the stalker emails that Gregg wrote to Billy in real life. I said it before, but I'll say it again. James is big simping after this chick. After this, Abby asks to meet him at Quick Shop, a shop just in the literal middle of nowhere. James then asks Abby if she got his mail and responded with, "Nope. Why didn't you just call?" I'm having a hard time not trying to constantly make fun of this kid for being a huge simp. I am trying. It's very hard to do, man. It's extremely hard to do. After this, they go to the place where they wanted to meet up, and she never showed up, effectively ghosting James's character. And that's how chapter 3 ends. It doesn't end with a bang. It ends with a disappointing wet fart. The whole chapter led up to nothing except my utter disappointment. And even then, it wasn't even that good.
Buy a medium or larger soft drink, pull the sticker, and win cash or prizes, or McDonald's food at all-time prices.
Chapter 4 starts with someone calling our main character a wuss. Honestly, I think they're the main character. They're honestly the hero we need, but unfortunately, we're stuck with James. And also, Abby isn't in art class again. I don't know why. Opening the door, I could see Abby wasn't inside. Instead, there was a piece of my bear sewn into pieces of her bear sitting on her desk. Maybe I was reading too far into what it meant. I could really only hope that there was something left to us that I could sew back together. What do you mean? What was there between you guys? There's literally nothing. I need more monster for this. I literally need more monster for this. Don't mind me, kids. Just having a bit of fun, you know? What time is it right now? Am I allowed to drink? It's 10 in the fucking morning. I can't even... Fuck! Can't even enjoy a nice drink. After this, Abby leaves a note to James asking him to meet her behind the church. Now, James, our simp of a main character, stuffs his bag and effectively leaves the class immediately. Like, straight up after reading that. And pretty much ditches school because he's a fucking bad guy. Yeah. Now, the next passage made me cringe in a bad way because essentially our main character has the self-esteem of Alex Mahan, where he needs nature to actually make him make a move on a girl. After this, Abby cries her heart out to our main simp character, and he responds with this. As we held each other, I said, "You were never damaged, only changed. Any part of you that you think died is just hidden, waiting to come out when it's safe." Abby squeezed me even tighter. I continued, "Every time I see you, you become more beautiful to me than before." If you didn't think this character was Onision before, now you know. Gregg really likes vulnerable people, like people at their most vulnerable, and this just shows. After this, chapter 4 ends. It just ends. Nothing of value was gained, nothing of value was lost, except my time and brain cells.
We'll return after these messages.
Chapter 5 starts off with James complaining about his mother's dinner with a knock on the door, and it's just some dude. Gregg's character, I shit you not, responds with this. "So, Who is this gentleman? What teen says that? Golly gosh, mother, who is this spiffing old bean that stands before me? Yes, yes. As it turns out, this dude is just his mom's new boyfriend, and the rest is kind of boring and a complete slog to go through, so if you want to go through it, go right ahead. Honestly, it's so bad that I didn't even write it in the script. Davis pops up one morning and gives James his morning dick suck because that's how a supporting character is supposed to act, I guess. After this, James talks to his guidance counselor, teacher, mentor, whatever the fuck you want to name it, and she tells him to stop meeting Abby. Except this is tarnished. This entire exchange between them is tarnished in the very next sequence where they have an arranged PE class where him and Abby are in it together. When I approached her to sit down, she pulled out my backpack and shook it. "Your backpack has a lot of interesting things in it." I replied, "Oh really? You went through it?" I can't even, how do you fuck a book up this badly? My fucking god. I'm stunned. I'm flabbergasted. I do not understand how you fuck a book up, a piece of paper this badly. I am flabbergasted that a tree died for this book. As class came to a close, we gathered our things and began to walk out. "Bye, Mrs. Stanley. I'll miss you." Mrs. Stanley responded, calling him the F word in her natural offensive fashion, and gave the class an awkward semi-shock. At this point, Gregg, you're not even trying to make it realistic. What fucking teacher calls a student the F word and still keeps their job? Anyways, after this, they have PE, and Jason's uncle is the new PE teacher. James gets a hug from Abby and almost pops a boner because he has never felt interaction between a woman before. And that's the end of that chapter. Again, nothing was lost except for my brain cells and my time.
Heavy rain is slowing traffic.
What time's your meeting?
8:30.
Chapter 6 starts off with James's mom wanting to move in with her new boyfriend of 2 seconds somewhere, fuck if I know, and essentially cock blocks our boy James from getting that sweet poontang. We get more of Davis in this chapter, but he starts off to be more, well, what I should say, jealous creepy. Not jealous creepy in a good sense, but jealous creepy in a weird sense, like almost stalker-like. Davis could see my upset posture over the window as the bus pulled up, so as I walked up the steps, this time he screamed, "I love you so much! I wish you were my boyfriend!" I hated myself for giving in yet again, but laughter escaped me. My life was turning completely upside down, and Davis was there to make me experience a fragment of happiness. What the fuck am I reading? As I sat down, Davis grabbed me and hugged me. Someone sitting a few seats away screamed, "Ew, homo," which made Davis yell back, "I love him! That is love!" He jumped onto the seat with his little body and pressed our faces side by side. "Look at our love!" I patted his arm that had been wrapped around me sarcastically, and he released me to sit down. Immediately he asked, "So what's up, buddy? How can I turn that frown upside poopy poop poo?" This is the peak of literature. Fuck off, Dennis Lehane. Fuck off, George R.R. Martin.
This is the peak.
I could have finished college. I could have gotten a degree in medicine. I could have gotten a girlfriend. After this, James and Abby discussed the potential of moving in together despite only knowing each other for literally less than 2 weeks. We don't know. James, Gregg, Onision never gave a timestamp of how long this book is. Literally did not. They giggle, they laugh, they kiss each other in weird ways that can get me demonetized, and that's the end of that. This chapter was pain. For me, my brain, and for me again, later when I'm editing this.
Parents have to answer enough tough questions, so do all you can to prevent that one.
Hi there, Noble from 2 weeks after I recorded the first part of that video. So for those of you who don't know, I actually took a break And I took a break during the recording of this video. So like literally I recorded chapter 7 and that was it. And now I'm back. And I forgot all about this video. I edited the first part completely. And then I forgot about the first episode. I forgot about the first part. And I forgot a lot of major details in the book, so I had to go back and reread them. So who's the fucking clown in this situation? I guess I am, because I had to read this fucking book twice. But yeah, let's continue. If it looks like I gave up with the book, that's because I did. I literally give up with the book. So last we left off, we were at chapter 7. Chapter 7 starts off with the school shooting. I shit you not. I shit you not. I wish I was making this up. It starts with a school shooting. The shooter is, up to my surprise, Abby's ex. Why? Why is he shooting these people? We don't fucking know. The one thing I like about this chapter, or well, dislike, I actually dislike it, but at the same time I would have liked it if the character died, was that James's character, or Gregg's character, James, asked the bus driver to let him off of the bus, the safety of the bus, so he can go into the school where the school shooting is taking place. My God, this man. My God, he may be a hero, but he's a fucking idiot. Oh yeah, also, after a few seconds, I was only skating. Oh, fuck me. What the fuck are you gonna do? Are you gonna fucking jet set radio the fucking bullets? Are you gonna fucking jet set radio on fucking Seth? What are you gonna do? How are you skating into a school shooting? As I approached the school, I could see freshly fallen bodies by the door, exactly where Seth had walked out as our bus left. I could have sworn they were all still moving, but my eyes blurred from the tears, and I knew, if not all of the shots were fatal. I didn't know much of anything about human anatomy, but through the blur, I could tell Seth was shooting people mostly in the neck and the head. Fuck! Could you imagine looking at dead bodies and being like, I don't know much about anatomy, but I feel like that body's dead. Despite all of this buildup, or the lack of buildup, our main character doesn't even save the day. You want to know who saves the fucking day? Jason, the guy who beat the shit out of our main character in the first chapter, saved the day. Wow, what an amazing main character. God damn it, this book fucking sucks! And that's the end of that chapter. It just ends. Like, wow.
I gotta take a break.
Chapter 8 is probably the most boring out of all the chapters, mostly because the spokesperson for the president came over to give a speech. And, a not really good speech at that. And that's the entire chapter in a nutshell. Literally, chapter 8 consists of that speech. It's not a good speech, but holy fuck, this chapter was terrible. It was a slog to read through. I felt like time was stopping. And not in a good sense. Not in a, like, I kissed a girl and I liked it kind of sense, where the world just stops. No, it literally just stops, and I felt like I wanted to die.
Now back to our story.
Chapter 9 starts with this passage. Wrapping her hands around my neck, Abby got up on her tiptoes as I pulled herself towards me. No! No! How the fuck do you make so many mistakes? Does Gregg speak any other fucking language? How does a native English speaker make this many mistakes in a fucking book? After this, Abby's dad gets mad and throws a tantrum for like 30 minutes and then gets arrested. That's the entire fucking chapter.
If dinner gets a little too attached to your grill.
Chapter 10 was a slog to read through, mostly because Davis is now jealous of Abby sucking James's dick every night instead of, letting him do it. Am I missing something else about this chapter? Oh yeah, the president shows up. I shit you not, I wish I was making this up, but the president actually shows up. What the fuck? So Chris, the class clown, calls the president a douchebag, and the president just literally does nothing. He just looks at him and goes, yep. Literally. Not even sending like one of his secret agents to like just tackle the kid and make the book a little bit more interesting. Nah, we straight boring here. This passage was really interesting to me because it solidified how unrealistic the book was. I mean, of course, it's a fucking book. But at the same time, we don't know if Gregg wanted to go for realism or unrealism. We don't know. He does not specify it. There's no paralogue. I keep telling people there's no prologue. There's nothing in the beginning. So how do we know if it's real? It also solidifies how much of an ego Gregg has, and he just spills his ego all over the fucking book. He just all over the fucking goddamn book. The rest of the chapter is garbage. Surprise, surprise.
You'll get it. Do it one more time.
Chapter 11. Best way of to create. Best way of to create? Are you fucking kidding me? At this point, I'm already fed up with the book, and I'm fed up with editing this video, so let's just fucking continue. I'm gonna start rapid firing through these chapters because I feel like a lot of people are bored of this video, and I am bored of this video as well, and I'm also bored of this fucking book out of my goddamn mind. Chapter 12, nothing really big happens except for Davis saying, and I quote, "Hi-ho, silver lady mammy poppysicle." Again, I have no idea if Davis is just 9 or if he's just stupid. I want to read this passage with you because it feels very relevant to Gregg, Onision, nowadays, so I'm gonna read it for you. "Every significant moment in my life I want to share with you." She smiled and leaned into a kiss. She then spoke under her cherry-smelling breath. "Every significant moment to come in my life will be significant because of you, James." I was overwhelmed with emotions. Since Abby and I began dating, I felt more purpose, more value in my life than I had ever known. Oof, that didn't age well. I hope Kai feels the same way now after sending all those nudes to those minors. Chapter 13, literally nothing happens. Like, actually nothing. Except for Abby apparently being raped, and that's why she gave James the note to meet her behind the church in the beginning. But apparently she was punched in the stomach by Seth, her ex, multiple times while she was pregnant, which resulted in a miscarriage. And James and Abby make out in the middle of class because of that trauma. I'm not shitting. They actually do make out in the middle of class when everybody was doing, you know, their lessons and shit. This book literally just went from 0 to 60 in less than a millisecond, and not in a good way. Like, it went from shit to shittier in like less than a millisecond. That burp was way better than the fucking book. Chapter 14, they have sex. Chapter 15, they have sex. They have sex. They have sex. Chapter 16, Davis acts more like a fucking idiot because forced drama. Fuck it. Also, a man jumps off of a bridge because, fuck it, we can use suicide as like a plot point, I guess. "A man has fallen off the bridge of Onision's Lego City." Oh yeah, Davis gets hit by a truck literally immediately after trying to help the man. He literally gets hit by a bus and dies instantly. I wish I was making this up. This book just is so bad, it keeps on giving. James blames himself because, I don't know. I literally do not know why he blames himself. Like, the reason why Davis got hit by a truck wasn't because of James. James actually did nothing to tell Davis to go help the man. Like, literally, he did nothing, and he still blames himself. What a main character. Chapter 17 was Davis's funeral, and his mom makes a speech. It's a very interesting speech. Not in a good sense, of course. Nothing in this book is good. Why should I just say, like, of course? Of course everything in this book is fucking terrible. Because of this passage, I can practically hear Davis sucking James's dick 6 feet underground because of how much of an ego Gregg had writing this fucking book. It's so bad. When my TA period began, Miss Robertson paid me a visit. She walked over to me, grading papers, and asked, "How have you liked working with Mr. Hansen?" I replied saying, "I like it just fine." Oof, that aged like spoiled milk. Oh yeah, also they asked James, or Gregg, or god damn it, they asked James if he wanted to be president of the school, literally president of the goddamn school, because I guess he needed something to stroke his ego even more, I guess. The police come to the school to ask Abby to question her about the shooting involving Seth because they think it might be connected to her. Spoiler, she isn't. It was Seth, the guy with the gun. Turns out Mrs. Robertson hates Abby. Why? I don't know. This lines up with the principal just admitting that she hated Mrs. Robertson. And here's to you, Mrs. Robertson. Jesus loves you more than you would know. Whoa. Also, Mrs. Robertson burns down the school. Why? I don't fucking know. And that's how the book ends. The book ends with the teachers getting full pay and the students getting full credit. This book, reading it, was actually garbage. Like, I wish this book was good bad. Like Face Off. But this book was bad. Like Space Jam. Like, I'd rather raw dog an anthill than read another minute of this goddamn book. I'd rather watch Space Jam than read this book again. The book is $10 on Amazon. You can do so much more with those $10. I found this copy of the book for free online. You just gotta work for it. You will find it for free on the internet. Do I recommend you read it? Fuck no. You just waste your time on something else. Waste your time watching paint dry, then read this book. You can use this book as toilet paper, but even then, it's still not worth it. The characters are one-dimensional as fuck and have zero personality. James's character is literally that, just a main character that nothing bad happens to him. He's literally a Gary Stu. Literally everything, every single bad thing that happens in this book gets resolved a chapter later or a few sentences later. It's terrible. Almost everything in this book is resolved immediately. There's no tension, nothing. Literally no tension at all. Abby's character is a fucking train wreck. She's just... God, I don't love using this word. But she is a fucking bitch, dude. Literally, this character is so stupid. Davis is dead, and Seth has no meaning to this story. And also, Jason apparently becomes buddy-buddy with the main character, with James, for no fucking reason other than, hey, Davis is dead, we need a replacement so someone can suck James's dick while Davis is dead. It's insane. This book is so not worth your money or your time. But my suffering is, smash that like button. If we make it to 10,000 fucking likes, I will read the rest of the goddamn fucking trilogy he has. Please don't actually smash the like button. I am not mentally ready to read the other books. All right, that's it. We finished. Yay.
With the cash, yeah, you know it's still a dream. Never kissing ass, even when I cut my scene. Every girl I know just wanna be hugging me every day. Yeah, you know just what I mean. Welcome to my life, welcome to a new time. No more complicated situations in my mind. When I come back, guess who they wanna see every day. Yeah, you know just what I mean. Here's a happy song for ya. Hard to hear when everyone adores ya. Serious guy with a bunch of mommy issues. Just not tonight, even though I brought tissues. Hope you respect.